There is a creature drifting through the deep ocean that you could stare directly at and still not see. It has no claws, no glowing lure, no massive jaws. It does not chase its prey like a shark. It does not wait in the darkness like an anglerfish. It does not crush, bite, sting, or swallow anything large enough to terrify us. And yet, in one of the most dangerous places on Earth, it survives by becoming something even stranger than a monster. It becomes almost invisible. This is Cystisoma, a transparent deep-sea crustacean so hard to detect that, in the open ocean, it can seem less like an animal and more like a living piece of glass. But here's the unsettling part. Cystisoma is not hiding in the darkness. It is hiding in the light. And that changes everything. Because in the ocean, light is not just something that helps animals see. Light is a weapon. Light exposes you. Light turns your body into a silhouette. Light gives predators a target. And somewhere in the vast blue emptiness, Cystisoma has evolved one of the strangest survival strategies in the natural world. It does not run from danger. It does not fight danger. It convinces danger that there is nothing there at all. But the deeper you look into this animal, the stranger the story becomes. Because being invisible in the ocean is almost impossible. And Cystisoma's body is not just transparent. It is an evolutionary answer to a terrifying question. How do you survive in a world where there is nowhere to hide? Imagine floating in the open ocean, not near a reef, not near the seafloor, not beside rocks, kelp, coral, or sand, just open water above you, below you, and on every side. This part of the ocean can feel empty to us, a blue desert stretching in all directions. But that emptiness is an illusion, because hidden inside it are some of the strangest animals on Earth. Some are small, some are gelatinous, some glow, some vanish. And many of them are locked in a constant battle between seeing and being seen. In this world, even the smallest mistake can be fatal. A flash of reflection, a shadow, a dark spot, a tiny outline drifting against the light. That may be all a predator needs, because in the open ocean, there are no walls, no burrows, no forests, no corners. There is nothing to duck behind. If something is hunting you, your body itself becomes the hiding place. And that is where Cystisoma's story begins, not with teeth, not with speed, but with absence, with the strange power of almost not being there. At first glance, Cystisoma looks like something unfinished, like nature began sketching an animal, then erased most of it. Its body is almost completely transparent. Its limbs are thin and delicate. Its shell allows light to pass through. Its form is so faint that, in water, it can nearly disappear. If one were floating in front of you, you might not notice the body at all. You might only notice a few tiny clues. A dark speck, a faint edge, a pair of eyes. The rest would seem to dissolve into the water around it. And that is exactly the point. Cystisoma belongs to a world where invisibility is not science fiction. It is survival. To understand why this matters, you have to understand the nightmare of open water. In the deep ocean, predators do not always need to see every detail of their prey. They do not need color. They do not need texture. They do not need a clear view. Sometimes, all they need is contrast. Picture a small animal drifting above a predator. Above that animal is the faint glow of sunlight filtering down from the surface. Even hundreds of meters below, some light can remain. To the predator looking upward, the prey becomes a shadow, a little dark shape against a dim blue background, and that shadow can mean death. This is why so many ocean animals have evolved bizarre camouflage. Some use counter shading, dark on top, pale underneath. From above, they blend with the darker depths. From below, they blend with the brighter surface. Others use bioluminescence. They produce light from their own bodies, not to attract attention, but to erase it. By glowing on their undersides, they can match the light coming from above and hide their own silhouette. It is called counter-illumination, a living creature using light to cancel out its own shadow. Others become silver, turning their sides into mirrors that reflect the surrounding water. Some deep-sea fish go the opposite way. They become ultra-black, absorbing light so efficiently that they almost vanish in the darkness. But Cystistoma took a different path. It did not become a mirror. It did not become a shadow. It did not create light. It became clear, and at first, that sounds simple. Just be transparent. Let the light pass through. Disappear. But the truth is much more complicated. Because transparency has a problem. A clear body is not automatically invisible. Think of a glass window. You can see through it, but you can also see it. You see the glare, you see the edges, you see the reflections, you see where the glass begins and ends. Now imagine trying to be a glass window in the middle of the ocean, surrounded by predators that have spent millions of years evolving to detect the tiniest differences in light. Suddenly, being transparent is not enough because the surface of the body can still reflect light. The edges can still shine. The internal organs can still appear as dark shapes. The eyes can still give everything away. And this is where Cystistoma becomes more than just a transparent animal. It becomes a mystery of engineering because Cystistoma does not just let light pass through its body. Its surface appears built to reduce the reflections that would expose it. Tiny structures on its outer layer help break up light and reduce glare, making the animal even harder to detect. In other words, Cystistoma is not just see-through, it is anti-reflective, a creature of flesh and shell using a kind of natural anti-glare technology, a living invisibility trick. And the strangest part is that this did not come from a laboratory. It came from evolution, from endless generations of predators noticing the animals that reflected too much light and removing them from the ocean. What survived were the ones that were harder to see, harder to notice, harder to catch, until eventually the ocean produced something like Cystistoma, an animal that survives by becoming almost nothing. But this raises a strange question. If transparency is such a powerful disguise, why are not all ocean animals transparent? Why are sharks not transparent? Why are whales not transparent? Why are fish not all drifting through the sea like glass sculptures? The answer reveals the cost of invisibility. Transparency works best for small animals, for soft animals, for animals with simple internal structures. Because the larger and more complex a creature becomes, the harder it is to hide everything inside. Muscle is not perfectly clear. Blood is not perfectly clear. Organs are not perfectly clear. A digestive system full of food is not perfectly clear. Bones, shells, nerves, reproductive organs, all of these can create shadows, colors, and outlines. So to become transparent, an animal has to make compromises. It has to simplify the visible parts of itself. It has to arrange organs carefully. It has to reduce pigmentation. It has to avoid creating dark shapes inside its own body. And there is one part that creates an even bigger problem: the eyes. Eyes are one of evolution's greatest inventions. They allow animals to detect predators, prey, mates, obstacles, and movement. But for a transparent animal, eyes are a betrayal because eyes need pigment. They need dark material to absorb light. Without that, vision becomes difficult. But with that, invisibility becomes imperfect. This is the cruel paradox of Cystistoma. To survive, it needs to see. But to hide, it needs not to be seen. Its body can vanish. Its limbs can fade. Its shell can become glass-like, but its eyes remain a problem. Two tiny clues floating in the water. And in the deep ocean, two tiny clues may be enough. This is one of the most fascinating twists in the story. Cystistoma is not perfectly invisible. It cannot be. No living animal can disappear completely while still functioning as an animal. It must eat. It must move. It must sense the world. It must have organs. It must have eyes. So Cystistoma is not the story of perfect invisibility. It is the story of how close life can get. How much of the body can be erased before the animal stops being possible? How much can evolution hide? How little can remain? And when you look at Cystistoma, it feels like the ocean tried to answer that question. It built a creature on the edge of visibility. Now here is where the story becomes even more eerie. Cystistoma is not alone. The ocean is full of creatures that seem to be experimenting with disappearance. Glass squid drift through the water with transparent bodies. Some have only their eyes and digestive organs visible, as if the rest of them has been removed. Comb jellies can look like floating illusions, scattering light in rainbow waves. Salps move through the ocean like clear barrels of jelly, almost invisible until they gather in chains. Young fish and larvae can be so transparent that they look like ghosts of animals not yet finished. And then there is the barrel-eye fish, a creature with a transparent head. Inside that clear dome are eyes that can rotate upward, allowing it to look through its own skull toward the faint silhouettes above. It sounds impossible, but the deep ocean is full of impossible things. And that is what makes this world so compelling. Because every time we think we understand what an animal should look like, the ocean produces something that breaks the rule. A fish with a see-through head, a squid with glass skin, a crustacean that appears almost invisible. The ocean is not empty. It is full of animals trying not to be found. And Cystistoma may be one of the most extreme examples, not because it is the biggest, not because it is the deadliest, but because it shows us a different kind of monster, a monster of absence, a creature whose power is not in what it reveals, but in what it hides. For humans, this is deeply unsettling. We are used to fearing what we can see. A fin in the water, a shadow below the surface, a jaw opening in the dark. But Cystistoma represents a different fear. The fear that the ocean is filled with things our senses simply miss. Things that are present but unnoticed, alive but unseen, close but invisible. And that fear is not fantasy, because our eyes are not built for the deep sea. They are built for air, sunlight, color, and contrast. In the ocean, everything changes. Water bends light. It absorbs color. Red disappears first, then orange, then yellow. Eventually, the world becomes blue, then black. Distance becomes difficult to judge. Shapes blur. Movement disappears into drifting particles. A creature like Cystistoma takes advantage of that environment. Its body does not need to be magical. It only needs to be slightly better at disappearing than the animals around it. That is enough. Evolution does not demand perfection. It demands advantage. If being a little more transparent helps you survive one more day, that trait matters. If reducing reflection makes one predator miss you, that trait matters. If your body becomes just hard enough to see that something swims past you instead of eating you, that trait matters. Over millions of years, tiny advantages become astonishing designs. And Cystistoma is one of those designs. It is not invisible because it wants to be. It is invisible because the ocean punished everything easier to see. But there is another layer to this story. Because Cystisoma's camouflage is not only about avoiding predators, it may also help it avoid attention while drifting through a world full of hunters and prey. In the open ocean, many animals do not have the luxury of choosing when they are exposed. Currents move them. Light shifts around them. Predators come from below, above, and beside them. The water itself is constantly changing, so the best disguise is one that works from many angles. A pattern might help on a reef. A color might help on the seafloor. But in open water, there is no fixed background. The background is always water. So becoming water-like may be the ultimate strategy. And that is what Cystistoma seems to do. It does not blend into a rock. It does not imitate seaweed. It does not bury itself in sand. It blends into the entire ocean. That is what makes it so strange. Most camouflage is about matching a place. Cystisoma's camouflage is about matching emptiness. It is not disguised as something. It is disguised as nothing. And that may be the most powerful disguise of all. Now imagine being a predator in this world. You are looking upward through the dim blue water. You are searching for movement, shadows, flashes, outlines. You are hungry. Every missed meal matters. Then something passes above you. Maybe it is prey. Maybe it is nothing. You cannot tell. There is no strong outline, no obvious body, no flash of silver, no dark silhouette, just a faint disturbance in the water. Would you strike? Would you waste energy chasing something you can barely confirm exists? In the deep ocean, Energy is precious. Food can be rare. A predator cannot afford to attack every illusion, and that hesitation may be exactly what Cystisoma needs. It does not have to be impossible to see. It only has to be difficult enough that the predator doubts itself. That is the secret. Cystisoma does not need perfect invisibility. It needs uncertainty, a moment of confusion, a missed detection, a predator looking right through it. In that moment, the invisible animal wins. Not by fighting, not by fleeing, but by being overlooked. This is why the idea of Cystisoma feels almost supernatural, because it plays with one of our oldest assumptions. We believe that seeing is knowing, that if something is in front of us, we will notice it. But the ocean proves otherwise. There are animals that can be present and hidden at the same time, visible in theory, invisible in practice. And Cystisoma lives in that strange boundary. It is not a ghost. It is not magic. It is biology pushed to an extreme. A body shaped by fear, a shell shaped by light, a survival strategy shaped by the endless pressure of being hunted. And perhaps that is why it feels more unsettling than a typical sea monster. A giant squid is terrifying because it is enormous. An anglerfish is terrifying because it looks monstrous. A shark is terrifying because it is powerful. But Cystisoma is terrifying because it is subtle, because it reminds us that the ocean's strangest creatures are not always the ones that attack. Sometimes they are the ones we never notice, the ones that drift beside us, the ones that vanish when the light changes, the ones that make the ocean seem empty. And there is a final twist. Cystisoma's invisibility is not just useful for survival. It may also inspire human technology. Scientists have long studied animals like these because nature often solves problems before we even know how to ask them. Anti-reflective surfaces, transparent materials, camouflage systems, light-scattering structures. These are things humans try to engineer. But in the ocean, evolution has been testing them for millions of years. Every transparent animal is like a biological experiment. Some fail, some survive, some become so refined that they seem almost unreal. Cystisoma is one of those experiments. Its body shows how life can manipulate light without machines. How a living surface can reduce glare, how an animal can become harder to detect not by hiding behind the environment, but by becoming part of the environment. And maybe that is the most incredible thing about it. This creature is not just strange. It is a lesson, a reminder that the deep ocean is not just a place of monsters. It is a place of solutions. Solutions to darkness, solutions to pressure, solutions to hunger, solutions to being seen. And Cystisoma's solution is one of the most elegant ever found. Disappear. So when we call Cystisoma an invisible monster, we do not mean it is a monster in the usual sense. It is not monstrous because of its size. It is not monstrous because of violence. It is monstrous because it challenges what we think a creature should be. Animals are supposed to have bodies we can recognize, shapes we can define, edges we can trace. Cystisoma refuses that. It is a creature built to escape attention, a body designed to be doubted, a living thing that looks almost like an absence, and in a way, that makes it more alien than many of the deep sea's famous predators. Because when we imagine life in the deep ocean, we often imagine teeth. We imagine glowing lures, we imagine giant tentacles, we imagine something rising from the blackness. But Cystisoma tells a quieter story, a stranger story, a story where survival belongs not to the strongest creature, but to the least visible one. And maybe that is the real secret of the deep sea. Not everything down there is trying to look terrifying. Some things are trying not to look like anything at all. The next time you see footage of the open ocean and it looks empty, pause for a moment. That emptiness may not be empty. It may be full of transparent bodies, glass-like limbs, hidden eyes, creatures drifting in plain sight. Some may be so clear that even a camera struggles to capture them. Some may pass through the frame like distortions in the water. Some may be there right in front of us, and we may never know. Because the ocean is not only dark, it is deceptive. It hides things with depth. It hides things with pressure. It hides things with distance. And sometimes, It hides things by making them almost perfectly clear. That is the world Cystosoma belongs to. A world where being seen can mean death. A world where light is dangerous. A world where the best way to survive is to become a question mark. Was something there? Did something move? Was that an animal or just the water? For Cystosoma, that uncertainty is life. And somewhere in the deep blue, this nearly invisible creature continues to drift, silent, fragile, ghost-like, not a monster of teeth or claws, but a monster of disappearance. A reminder that the ocean's greatest mysteries are not always hidden in the darkness. Sometimes they are hidden in plain sight, and sometimes the most impossible creature to find is the one that is already right in front of you, almost impossible to see.